Hello, everybody. Welcome to Martial Outlook, and today we'll be talking about Aikido. So, what is Aikido really? I'm sure anybody who's been around the martial arts circle has probably heard of Aikido one way or another. Some of the good, and some of the bad. Aikido was created by Morihei Ueshiba, who studied many forms of traditional jiu-jitsu. This led him to create his own art, which he named Aikido in 1942. Aikido is heavily reliant on throws and joint locks. Aikido redirects the attacker's energy rather than facing them head on. This is why most consider Aikido a peaceful martial art. However, people criticize Aikido for being ineffective and also cult-like at times. So I decided to do further research to see if these claims are true. It doesn't take much research to find out where the first criticism is coming from. Often the attacks that Aikido teaches you to defend are very unrealistic. In most cases, you'll see an attacker come in with a wide karate chop-like arc. This historically makes sense because it could symbolize something like a sword. After the attacker throws out their move, they are swiftly countered and then through. The problem many people have with this is that after the attacker throws out their move, they become complicit and let themselves be thrown around. Many people also believe that these moves don't work unless the opponent is cooperating with you. And with a lack of pressure testing in this martial art, it's really easy to see why people bring up these criticisms. Does that take away from it as a martial art as a whole? And honestly, I don't believe it does. There are many martial arts out there, like many forms of kung fu, that are more performance-based. The problem lies with it claiming to be a self-defense form. You see, from a business perspective, this makes sense. Self-defense is a very big market, and a lot of people don't like getting in fights. So, if you can sell people on the fact that you can win a fight without getting your hands dirty, then business will be booming. From a moral perspective, however, this can be seen as scummy and predatory at times. This is because you're selling people on a dream that just frankly isn't realistic. But I think this reflects more poorly on the school itself rather than the art. Another common complaint I hear about Aikido is that it is cult-like in nature. At first, this claim seems a little bit ridiculous, but when you think about the amount of martial art cults there are out there, it becomes a little bit more believable. I'm sure by now most of you have seen videos of the no-touch knockout masters who can magically knock out their students just by waving their hands in front of them. And the sad part about this is a lot of people are tricked to believe this. In Aikido's case, this is a little different. The founder, Morihei, in many schools is almost worshipped by the students. Some schools go as far to bow to a picture of him at the end of each session. Aikido also is a very tight-knit community that seems to be very firm in their beliefs. When a practitioner finds a flaw in the system, it seems like the community tends to blame the practitioner instead of the art itself. This is very unhealthy because it creates a false perception of what the art really is. Now, to call Aikido a cult is a little bit of a jump from the evidence I've just listed. And while writing this script, I realized that I don't know much about this art other than what I hear online. So, I decided to reach out to an Aikido dojo nearby. In the email I sent out, I said that I was very interested in Aikido and learning more about it and its history. The owner was very nice and friendly, and he told me that tomorrow I could come in to watch one of his classes. The next morning, I got ready and I headed over to see the dojo. Also, side note, this place was really hard to find. It was like on the back of a brick building in the middle of nowhere, and there was this white, sketchy door with a faded Aikido sign above it. I thought I was going to get jumped. But luckily, it was not a setup. I was fine. It actually was a really nice place, but back to the story. So when I get there a little bit later, and it looks like that they're warming up and doing their stretches. It struck me as a little odd at first, though, because when they were doing their stretches, there was some prayer-like motions going along with them, and also none of them were talking. And from my experience with jiu-jitsu in the past, whenever I'm warming up with people, I'm usually talking, or people are usually talking. It's never dead silent like it was this time. So, after they finished doing their stretches, they went on to drilling break falls. Just another thing to warm up. And this is the first thing of Aikido that I actually was impressed by. Their system of break falls was surprisingly complex and in-depth. Now, with most martial arts like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Judo, where there's tosses and throws, there's a lot of breakfalls involved. But from what I've seen from these other martial arts, the breakfalls are never as in-depth as they were in Aikido. Now, why this is, I couldn't say for sure. It could have something to do with the more unusual throws that Aikido has, or how the training partner is supposed to go along with the throws more than you would in other martial arts, such as Judo or Jiu-Jitsu. or it could have something to do with the more cooperative nature of Aikido. And also, from what I've seen, it seems like there's a lot more etiquette surrounding being a good training partner in Aikido than there is in other martial arts. These are all factors that could add to why the breakfalls are so in depth, but to be honest, I can't really say for sure. The instructor finally came over to greet me and say hello, and I asked him about the breakfalls. And he told me that in Aikido, the breakfalls are more down to a science than they are in other arts. This instructor was also very kind to me. Periodically throughout teaching his class, he would always come over and check if I was understanding things or if I had any questions, and overall, he was just really kind and really welcoming. So after they finished drilling breakfalls, they went on to drilling actual moves. And these moves were pretty much what you would expect. There wasn't anything too special about these moves compared to what you could find on YouTube. They looked pretty much the same, at least from my perspective. I'm sure that they probably did something a little bit more unique or a little bit different from other videos you could find on YouTube, but from my outsider perspective, it looks like the same Aikido you could find online. And personally, from what I've seen, it really doesn't seem like there's that much self-defense application, at very least, in Aikido. That's not to say that there isn't any at all. I'm sure there is, and I'm sure you can get some value out of self-defense from Aikido. But if you're looking for self-defense, I think you're better off training in a different martial art. And as I stated prior, not every martial art is defined by its ability to work on the streets. And I don't think that takes away from the art as a whole. The problem many people have had is that Aikido sometimes claims to be a self-defense art. So I decided to ask the instructor there if he thinks Aikido is applicable for self-defense. And what he said really surprised me. It seemed like he was very aware of some of Aikido's shortcomings. He told me that in general, Aikido is pretty decent at learning how to evade and get around attacks. But he also believed that it was best to cross-train if you really wanted to learn how to defend yourself. Now, I personally believe that there is a lot of other martial arts that can teach you the motions and how to counter other attacks better than Aikido can. But I believe there's some merit to what he said. I think you can actually get some value off of the attacks that Aikido throws out, albeit that they are a little unrealistic. But sometimes just learning to spot when an attack's coming out is enough. And I think building the instinct to evade or get away from a strike really can't hurt. But I also believe that attempting some of these moves can also get you in deeper water than you initially started off in. So if you're really adamant about using Aikido for self-defense, as the instructor said, it's best to cross-train. Now, onto the other moves like joint locks. Are they good? Are they bad? What do I think of them? The instructor also told me that a lot of these joint locks sacrifice braking power for control, and that kind of struck me as odd. If your joint locks don't have braking power, then it just makes them pain compliant. Furthermore, I feel like it takes away from the purpose of going for a joint lock in the first place. But I take this with a grain of salt because the instructor was comparing jujitsu submissions to some of the locks in Aikido. But from what I've seen, it really seems like jujitsu submissions still have a lot more control and a lot more braking power than the ones I've seen in Aikido. This, of course, is only an observation I can make visually. I never got a chance to personally feel the power of some of these Aikido submissions, but unless there's some magical power that makes me yield instantly, I really don't see them being more powerful or more controlling than any jujitsu submission. What really struck me as interesting is how open this instructor was about other martial arts and how he believes that there's value to everything. He didn't believe that Aikido was the end-all be-all, and I really respected him for that. And what the internet has told me up until this point is that Aikido practitioners are all stubborn in their ways. And in this case, I'm very happy to say that, believe it or not, the internet was wrong this time. And maybe I ran into a 1 in a million person who is just that easygoing and that welcoming of everything. And I'm sure there's plenty of stubborn practitioners out there, but from the experience I've had, it was very positive. Let's address the elephant in the room and start talking about some of the cult accusations made to Aikido. And this is where things get a little weird in my experience. During my visit, I did see some weird and very questionable things happen. For starters, at the end of the session, they all bowed to a photo of the founder. And there was a couple students who were very weird towards the instructor. One man went as far to scream out in pain when the instructor was doing their wrist lock on him. He would also let his much smaller master toss him around very easily. Now, this seems like normal activity. Maybe this guy has a low pain tolerance. Maybe he's just going along with the move like you should. But after you started watching him train with the other people, this really didn't seem like the case. When the same wrist lock was done on him by another person, or several different people, he never had the same reaction. And when he was thrown around by other people, it seemed like he was even putting up resistance. It really seemed like he was trying to downplay his training partner's move to make his master look better. But then again, this is just speculation, and I really can't draw many conclusions from this. Personally, from what I've seen, calling Aikido a cult might be just a little bit of a jump for me. There were for sure some suspicious behaviors that I saw, but I think it would be wrong for me to make that conclusion, and I frankly don't have enough evidence to back that up. But overall, after my visit, what do I think of Aikido? Has any of my opinions changed? How do I feel about it? Well, to tell you the truth, I feel like I've gained more of a respect for the art. I think that Aikido is a lot more art than it is martial, but I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. The problem lies with people who call it a self-defense martial arts, but as you can see, there are people out there that fully accept what Aikido really is, and accept a lot of its shortcomings. But on the other hand, from what I've seen, I feel like a lot of the criticism that people have given Aikido is valid. But let me know down below what you think. Was I wrong about anything? Did I miss anything important? Do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me? But for now, this is Martial Outlook. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.